Anybody who missed the lesson on the introduction to the Federalists and Anti-Federalists, pay attention quick. Here's your notes. Once you have that document open, and the document that I'm talking about is this one right here, Adopting the Constitution is Not Easy. You should be ready to fill this in super quick. Here we go. All right. The Articles of Confederation required unanimous or 100% states vote for constitutional approval. All right. This would lead to failure because, remember, Rhode Island was not present at the convention. They were one of the 13 colonies or states at the time. So an agreement was made between the delegates to change this rule to 9 of 13. This was highly illegal and in a current situation would not be allowable. So states go back after they get this agreement and they set up ratifying committees to speed up the process of approval. Ratify means to approve. Persuading the states was an extreme challenge. This was because there were Federalists, those who supported or liked the idea of a constitution and a strong government, and then there were the Anti-Federalists who were against the Constitution and they were against strong federal government. The Federalists were George Washington, James Adams, and John Adams, James Madison, and John Adams. I may have said that wrong. And the opponents were guys like George Mason, Patrick Henry, pictured here, and Sam Adams. The Anti-Federalists liked weaker, smaller government, more control for the states. They were really afraid of the North, the interests in the North, such as bankers and merchants, basically the rich and wealthy. Now, the Federalists, on the other hand, they feared events like Shays' Rebellion. They thought it felt like disarray and that it would lead to the destruction of their hard work making the Constitution. They do not like the idea of giving people too much freedom. That is a bad idea because things like Shays' Rebellion happen. And they're also deathly afraid of the average uneducated man, which would be 90% of America, farmers at the time. All right. Your fill-in for what is the strongest criticism of the Constitution is there was no Bill of Rights. No Bill of Rights. These were the individual rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Freedom of speech, press, religion, petition, assembly, right to bear arms, not having to quarter troops, protection from search and seizure, etc. Your job now is to pause the video and watch Hip Hughes. This can be found on your link. If we scroll down, it's right there. Watch it and make sure you fill this area in. Okay, on to the last section. Adopting the Constitution would continue to be a struggle. However, it would pass, right? We still have our form of government today, which is the Constitution. Delaware would be the first state to sign the Constitution, but many states held out. New Hampshire would become the 9th state to ratify. Ratify, remember, means to approve. Technically, the Constitution then becomes the law of the land. However, what we need to know is that big states, 4 big states held out: Virginia, North Carolina, New York, and Massachusetts. They feared the Constitution would not succeed. This is why they held out on signing it. One of the reasons they signed out was because Rhode Island, RI, had a 1,000-person revolt, fires in the streets, pitchforks, guns, swords, you name it, out in the streets in tiny old Rhode Island. Heck, they probably barely had 100,000 people at the time. So it was a pretty big deal. All right, the last part of it here. Massachusetts finally decides to ratify or approve the Constitution. But one thing has to be added. Could you guess what it is? It has to do with individual rights. It is a Bill of Rights requirement. So once all the states agree to add a Bill of Rights to the Constitution, Massachusetts and all the other big states, Virginia, North Carolina, and New York, sign the Constitution. And that is where we are today, boys and girls. Hopefully you enjoyed that lesson. Make sure you understand those notes for Unit 2 test.